All right, it looks like we've got everybody checked in here, so let's go ahead and get started. First and foremost, if I haven't got the pleasure of meeting you, my name is Colleen Lang. I am the Director of Education here at iRollSource. A little bit about my background is the reason I like teaching the classes is this is all the stuff I wish I would have learned 25 years ago when I got my realtor license. So I actually use these tools, and my whole goal is that you walk away with some time saving tips and tricks that I wish I would have known when I started. I'm also going to show you some cool things in Collaboration Center that help us as agents automate the process even further. And what I mean is, it's great when you can set these things up on an automated process so these searches and properties automatically go to the buyer. But of course, buyers want to search today right from their phone by clicking on a button. They want to find properties near them. And I'm happy to say, as of 2 days ago, Collaboration Center now has that. So I'm going to show you all those new enhancements that have come out. But there's also in real estate, there's great stories, right? And so I'm going to give you some examples of where some of these new enhancements are really going to allow you as the agent to keep that upper hand. I'm going to give you a good case in point that recently happened to me. Had a great closing. It was one of those closings where, they start off as a client, they become a friend, you end up going to dinner a few times afterward, but you just have that great relationship. And this particular client had mentioned, hey, my sister just started looking, and I am going to send you over her contact information so you can help her. And so I'm all excited, thinking, of course, that the sister's going to be very sweet, like this woman. Actually, not so much. This woman was the kind of the polar opposite. And her first conversation with me on the phone was, Colleen, if you send me one more yellow-sided home, I'm actually going to fire you and get another agent. Well, first of all, I didn't know she didn't like yellow-sided homes. I don't think she ever mentioned that. But second of all, there has to be a way to automate it in situations like that. And there is. You can do something called the agent preview, which is literally going to send that listing to you as soon as it hits the market. And you, the agent, can determine, oh, yep, it doesn't have yellow siding. I want to send it off to the client. Because, by the way, there is no button in the MLS that says remove all yellow sided homes, if you know what I mean. So sometimes you do have to have a way of automating it for you as the agent to have that extra level of control before it goes out to that client. Another situation is agent recommended. And I love this feature. I actually just closed a property with my very good friend, Dawn Waldrop. And I was working with a first time home buying couple. And the home buying couple must have said 40 times to me, Colleen, we're only going to live in St. Clair Shores, only show us houses in St. Clair Shores. They probably said it no less than 50 times. And so, you know what happened? They bought outside of St. Clair Shores, right? But in this particular situation, they were getting those automated properties. So every time something new with their criteria popped up, they were getting that right away. But my best friend, Dawn Waldrop, listed a property 2 streets outside of St. Clair Shores. We were actually having breakfast. She was telling me about the listing, and immediately I knew this was the right property for them. So, of course, you can do an agent recommended, though, even though it's not coming up in their exact search criteria, you, the agent, can recommend a property that alerts them right away, pops up in front of them. And sure enough, we walked in, they loved it, we wrote it at the kitchen table, and we were able to close it up. So sometimes we as agents know more about what they're going to buy than they actually do. So it sort of gives us that upper hand, if you will, when we're putting these searches together. And it still allows us to, even though it's automated, to have that extra level of control. All right, so that's enough of my explanations. We're going to go into the product. I kind of like to show this backwards. Again, it's brand new, so you're going to have to bear with me a little bit, but I like to kind of show you what the finished result of the new Collaboration Center is going to look like. And then I'm going to take you through exactly how to set it up for your clients and how to use all these new bells and whistles. I'm also going to show you some true advantages that it gives you, the agent, by setting your clients up in the Collab Center. So I'm going to turn my fuzzy hair off and we'll get right into the screen. Just before I do, I want to remind you that you can ask questions. We've got a very large group today, but you can ask questions at any time. In your GoToWebinar panel, which may be minimized at the bottom of your screen or maybe minimized over at the right-hand side, you might see a blue flower or an orange arrow, depending on your which browser you're using. If you open that up, you're going to find a questions box. At any time, if you have a question, just throw it in there. It'll alert me on my screen. That way we don't have to stop and do them all at the end and try to find where your questions were. It'll pop up on my screen. It'll alert me right away, and I can go ahead and address that question while we're on that particular item. Okay? So don't hold all your questions to the end. Throw them in that questions box, and we'll address them as we're going through the product. I do see a lot of great familiar names. So great to see you, Ed. Great to see you, Joe. And what I'm going to ask is if I could just have anybody throw in the questions box that you can see and hear me okay, we'll go ahead and we'll get started with the presentation. So if I just don't want to get 5 minutes into it and I find out, oh, nobody can see or hear you, that's always the worst. So awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Joe. Thanks so much, Tamara. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to, again, turn my fuzzy hair off and we'll get right into it. So you should, at this point, be seeing my Paragon screen. If you are coming in from one of our vendor MLSs, it may look slightly different to you. And it's just because this middle section is actually controlled by our brokers. In many of the MLSs that we vendor 10 MLSs now. If you're seeing that screen, it's probably controlled by your association or your MLS. So don't be worried if it looks slightly different. Everything we're going to cover today is stuff that you already have access to, and it's going to be the same. So where I want to start today is a lot of times I tell you that resources is like your agent toolbox. You've probably heard me say that if you've taken any other classes with us before. And basically this agent toolbox is where you're going to find things like Cloud CMA, Showing Time, where you can find all our upcoming classes, where you can find this class that I'm recording. So all of this is located in your resources. But I often get the call, and I probably once a week, I get a call saying, hey, Colleen, Collaboration Center is not in there. Well, you're right. It's not in there because it's so simple. It's literally a search that you're marrying to the contact record. So it's not even it's basically doing a search in Paragon and in the MLS and setting it up to automate it for your clients. Once you do that, anytime you want to access their Collaboration Center account, you're going to do it right under your contacts because everything is associated to that particular contact. So when you want to see what their favorite is, when you want to see what they're looking at, when you want to see what their site looks at like, all you're going to do is you're going to go to this contacts section, view or manage my contacts. And that's going to take you into all of the sites. And you're going to see I've got quite a few here. Some of I just set up for training purposes too, but I've got some real life clients in here. If I want to see what a particular client's site looks like, I can do that. I can go right into the actual site that they see to actually see it. Because I like to kind of be the guinea pig first. I like to see what's it going to look like, especially when it's brand new 2 days out of the box, right? One of the other things I like is right on this screen, it's going to show you when you set this client up in the Collaboration Center. It's going to show you when they last accessed when they last logged in to the Collaboration Center. It's also going to show you when their last notification went out. So I can see that Bob, my client here, he actually got a notification on the 14th of a new home that was available. And right away on the 14th, he logged in. So I can see he was last in here right here. He was last notified on that same day. I can see anything that they favorite. I can see anything. Now, I have my notifications set, so anything that they favorite automatically immediately comes to me. And I'm going to show you some really cool things you can do as far as getting properties scheduled instantaneously and throwing them right into Showing Time right from here. So first, let's go in and let's take a look at the site. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to find that particular client. I want to see what their site is going to look like. You're about to see the brand new Collaboration Center. I'm going to click on that view. And this is now what they're going to see. They now have an interactive dashboard with you. Collaboration Center, if you think about it, is really just that. It's a way that they can collaborate with you. They can show what they like, what they don't like, but now it includes searching. So, what you're going to see right here, if they are out and about and they're using the Collaboration Center, they now can search properties themselves. By the way, this is brand new, this was just released. And if they're using this on their phone, they can actually, instead of having to type in the address, which of course they could do, they can actually go right over here to the right, excuse me, click the Near Me button. I'm going to allow it. Obviously, I'm on a desktop and not my phone, but if the first time that they use it, it will ask them to allow it to find their location. And as you can see, it's immediately brought me to right where I am. And now if I'm interested in looking at a particular listing, I can click right on that listing that I'm standing next to, and it's going to pull that up right in front of me. Now, what's cool about this, so many times before, we had to send over sellers disclosures, or if we're going to look at properties, they might want to see that ahead of time. They now can even see those in the Collaboration Center. Of course, they can do that gallery style view where they can, on their phone, see all of the photos, blow them up. They can go through them from here. I like, again, that they can actually see things like the seller's disclosure and the lead-based paint disclosure from here. They can, now this is another thing I really love, is if they have favorited a listing. What happens in that case is you, the agent, get the notification right away. So let's say they favorited this listing. I get that notification right away. And generally, what happens at that point kind of makes me a little frustrated sometimes. Generally, what happens at that point is I get the notification Mr. Schmagegi wants to see property 35742 on Orchard Lane. I now call Mr. Schmagegi and I say, Mr. Schmagegi, when would you like to see this property? And inevitably, he says, let me call Mr. Schmagegi. I'll call you back. By the time they call me back, the property's pending, right? You know, that frustration. So, did you know that not only can it alert you of the properties that they want to see, but you can also have them request a showing time, which will send it with your alert. So I don't have to call them. And so if you are talking to your clients and you say, you know what, hey, any properties, this market's moving very quickly, there's not enough inventory. If there's a property you want to see, simply favorite it and put in the time. It eliminates me having to call them. I can call them with confirmation, but it's a lot easier when I don't have to pick up the phone and go through all of those cumbersome steps each time. And I'm going to show you the real benefit to that in just a minute. I promise there's a really cool thing I'm going to show you that's coming. So the idea is having it a little bit more automated just saves you from going through those extra steps. Now, of course, they can do that searching on their own. They can go in and view more about that property. Of course, they're going to see all of the information from the MLS. They can also go in and ask a question, which comes right to you. And by the way, these conversations are stored in a history. So if you want to see, wow, what did he ask me about that property? Or, oh, he asked me to check on something on that property. It's actually stored right in that history, which I love. They can, of course, be connected to you right away on their phones. They can shoot off a full-blown email to you if that's easier, if there's a lot of details. But I love that they can just send a quick chat. It comes right to me if they do have a question. I also had really good luck in getting clients off of programs like Zillow and Realtor.com, because let's face it, what happens is they all think that Zillow is the best thing since sliced bread, right? So they see a couple homes on Zillow, they call you and they say, hey, Joe, why didn't you send me 123 Main Street? Joe goes in. He said, well, that actually closed 45 days ago. So what I tell them is when I'm setting them up with this tool, I'm setting them up in the MLS to search as an agent does, because what happens is this is actually the MLS data. If something's pending, they see it pending immediately. It's not this outdated feed that they experience in places like Realtor.com and Zillow and many others. From here, if a client kind of wants to check out the neighborhood, let's say that, it's 2 hours away, Joe and Dawn are going to go and show them a house up there, but they kind of want to see what does that neighborhood look like before driving all that way. Of course, they can use that little yellow Google man. They can walk down the street. They can see the homes to the left. They can see the homes to the right. This happens to be a new construction sub going in over here by me. So they can actually walk through the neighborhood instead of having to drive out first. I know a lot of us see that little yellow Google man on everything, but knowing that your clients now can actually walk through the neighborhood instead of driving you all over, and then they get there and they say, I don't really like the sub. This is an easier way for them to go ahead and view those properties. So one of the big things in the Collaboration Center is, of course, that they now can search right from their home screen. They could, of course, put in a property address, but this bar is brand new to the Collaboration Center. The idea is, of course, they can put in, a neighborhood. They can put in an address. They can put in a business even, but they can also click right here and it will take them right to that map of where they are. Because let's face it, that's really what a mobile application should do, right? It should, if you're standing in front of a listing and you want to know about it, well, that's really the key is I want to go right to that listing. I don't want to have to search around and try to find it on the map. All right, so this is kind of the new interface. If they want to go in and they want to see their new matches, so matches that they've just received today, they can go right into new matches. This is going to allow them to see them, and all they have to do to see them is literally click on them. So if they want that level of detail, they're literally just going to click in. Let's talk about those documents. Remember how I said they now can see things like seller's disclosures? Now, of course, the caveat here is the agent does have to add them. I did get a call saying, Colleen, you said that disclosures were there. Well, yes, the agent does have to put them in. But as you can see, the agent has put in an appraisal guarantee addendum, a seller's disclosure. So if they want to view that, they can literally click on it from here and they can open up and even print out that seller's disclosure. So it gives them a little bit more access. Plus, this is stuff they can't find on Zillow. They can't find it on Realtor.com. So in my opinion, this is giving us even more value, setting them up in the MLS so that you search like an agent does. You now can use this anywhere and you can see how simple it is. And you have access to things you can't see on Zillow and other sites, like those seller's disclosures and lead-based paint documents. Oh, okay. Well, I think I just answered. I just saw your question pop up. So let me show that one more time. Seller's disclosures are going to be found right down here. It'll be under the document section. So when you scroll to the bottom, now, as you know, we're still working on ways to import from data sharing too. So right now you'll see all the My Real Store sellers disclosures. There's been a lot of talk because RealComp obviously has their disclosures in Remind. Sometimes there's that extra level you have to go through. We're still working on making sure we get all the rest of those in here. So it's kind of a work in progress like it was previously before they switched to Remind. But where you will find those, Ed, that's a great question, is you're going to find those right down here at the bottom. You're going to open it up and you're going to be able to see all of, and you probably asked that question even before I showed it. Sorry, I just glanced at it, so I just saw it. And of course, if they wanted to print those off, they can do that as well. So it's giving them, again, in my opinion, it's giving them things they can't find on other sites, a direct reason that they should work directly with you in the Collab Center. Of course, clients can go in, and I'm just going to favorite a couple of these just to kind of show some examples here. So I'm going to say the client went in, they can ask questions. When it says comment, that's really where they can comment or ask questions. Those go directly to you as the agent. I'm just going to go in and actually, I just grab a couple of these. A couple of these are coming soon. So as you can see, those comments are stored on a per listing basis. So I can go back if they ask, it used to store comments, if you remembered, it would store them per client, which isn't that helpful if they're asking questions about a specific home. Like that now, I can go back and see all of the comments for that specific property. So if they had questions about the foundation, or they had questions, maybe it's new construction on that specific listing, it's now tied to that specific listing, which I think is a little more helpful. If they ask 100 questions about 100 different properties and they're all grouped together, it's hard to know which question came from what, right? So this is a little bit better way, in my opinion, of grouping that together. All right, so from here, I've got them to go in and I've got them to now favorite the homes that they want to see. For me, the agent, why this is so important is not only does it save me from calling and saying, hey, which houses did you want to see? And then I've got to go pull them all up. Watch what it does on the agent side. Okay, so I'm just going to refresh this because we went in and added some of those favorite listings. So I'm going to say I just got that notification, and that notification is telling me that they want to see a couple of particular listings. So now I'm going to go under contacts, view and manage, because that's where I'm going to find all of my collab center sites, right? And I'm going to go to those 13 listings that that buyer just favorited. But watch what this does for you. So when I click on that number 13, instead of having to go pull up those 13 listings, I can pull all of the one that they're interested in at one time. So now here's where it gets good. So some of these are coming soon. Obviously, we can't see those yet because they haven't hit their activation date. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this status column. And as you can see, one of the customizations, I always get this question right about here. One of the customizations that I've done is I've been so blessed to work with so many wonderful agents over 25 years. I've done deals with Ed St. Aubin. I've done deals with, so many of these agents. I like to see who the agent is that has the property listed. Not that I can tell you I've only been on these wrong side of a deal with an agent, just a handful of times. But those agents who don't ever answer their phone, or you're, 2 days away from closing and you can't track them down. Those agents that, you're put 4 calls in and you've gotten nothing back and you're trying to figure out something on the home inspection. So everyone has 1 or 2 of those in their illustrious real estate career, but there's so many great agents I've had the pleasure of working with. So if I'm going to show 10 properties, not that I wouldn't show that agent's property, but I might put them lower on the list. I might want to show Joe and Dawn Anderson's listings first because they're great agents and they're really good about returning their calls and great people to work with. They might be a little higher on my showing list, and maybe Joe Schmagegi, who never called me back, might be a little lower on the showing list, if you know what I mean. So it's really helpful when you customize your search results in a way that you can clearly see who has the property listed. And, oh yeah, I closed a great deal with that. Candace is a great agent, and I might want to put her, again, the top of my list. If you don't have your search results that contain the agent name, let me show you how to do that, because I think that is a huge help when you can see who has the property listed. And by the way, if you do agent name and cell phone number, do you know how nice that is? Because if you have a question, it's right in front of you. You can just give them a call. So you can customize your search results. And these are just little things that I've done over the years that just make it a couple seconds easier, right? It's not like it revolutionizes the whole process. It just makes it a little easier when you're scheduling these showings or you're trying to get a hold of the agent. So let me show you how to do that. It's kind of something we teach more in the Paragon class, but I'm just going to throw it in here. So if you go to customize, you can customize whatever search results you want to appear. So I'm going to click on fields. And if there is a particular field you don't like closing date, if you don't want that in there, you could check that off and you can hit remove. I do like that in there, so I'm not going to do that. I constantly am changing my search results, and then I get all frustrated with myself in these classes. But let's do the agent name one, which is a really good example. I'm going to take it out. So now I can add it back in. I can show you how to do that. What you want to do to add any fields in, they're kind of in groups. So in this case, I know that that's going to be in the agent group, right? So I'm going to pull up agent. I could do agent name. You could do agent name and phone number. So it's just how you want. You could do agent name and email address if that's what you want. You're just going to pick the one that you want, and you're going to hit add. It's always going to drop it at the bottom. But did you know you can actually drag and drop those into, maybe I want that closer to the top of my list, so I don't always have to scroll over to the right. Did you know that you can literally drag and drop those in any order you want? And then all you have to do is save it. And now that agent name is going to show up right in your column. Again, you could do agent name and phone number, agent name, phone number, and email if you wanted. The only thing is you might not want to add too much, because then you got to always scroll to the right for the other columns. But the whole goal is to make it easy. I also have a little OCD, as many can tell you. And so I like to sort these by status because obviously I can't show the coming soons. This one obviously has a contingency. So really, I just want to show the actives that are in active status right now. So I'm going to say, well, actually, we'll check them all. And I'm going to uncheck the contingency and the ones that can't be shown because they're still in the coming soon status. Now, if you're like me right here, you're probably thinking, okay, Colleen, well, now how do you build the showing cart that you talked about? Well, the first thing I like to do is I like to always just see, and that's kind of my OCD again, I like to just see the properties I'm working with. So now I've sorted them to the 10. Now, quite honestly, if you get 10, you're a miracle worker in this market. I'm lucky if I get 4 or 5, but here in this case, we've got a few. And we're going to go ahead and we're now going to send this right to the scheduling. I don't want to have to type in all of these addresses. So if you remember how we actually got here is they simply favorited those addresses. I then went into the contact record. I can see they favorited 13. I click on that number 13, and that now brings us to the 13 that we're going to schedule the showings on. So let's go ahead and do this. So we're going to go up to what I call the easy button or the magic button, if you will. Right up here where this plug is, where it says actions, this is where you're starting. Instead of scheduling these one by one, and I swear I used to do this, I would go in, I'd schedule the first one, I'd get out my phone, I'd look on my map, and I'd say, okay, where am I going next? Then I'd schedule the next one. Then I'm like, oh, darn it, that one has a blackout time. Now I need to go back and move. Do you know how that was so painful? So if you haven't used these new showing time carts, they're phenomenal. It does all of that for you. So really what I want to do is take all of these properties and I just want to throw them in the showing time cart. So that's basically what we're doing now. We're taking those properties, we're going up to that actions button. I'll show it to you again. Actions is going to be right here, that plug in right in your toolbar. You're going to hit showing time. You're going to plop those into the showing time cart. In this case, I'm going to say I'm going to start a brand new showing time cart. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. What date am I going to show them? I'm going to say tomorrow. And who am I showing these properties to? Now, this is another, this is another good thing to help you kind of keep track of how many properties you're showing. Many on this call know my very best friend, Lisa Harris. We've been best friends for like 20 years, I think now. But she one time showed 98 properties. I kid you not. And so finally, what she ended up doing was going back to her showing time list and printing out all the addresses that she had shown this couple. And she then finally said, look, we're either going to have to expand our price range or decrease our haves and wants because we've now seen this many properties. And you know what? Almost immediately they ended up buying. They realized they had to kind of bring it down a little bit. So it does keep track of all the properties that you've shown. And that's really helpful too if you have, let's say you have a couple, they start looking, they take a break for a couple of months. And then they start looking again. It will let you know if you're showing a property you've already shown. It will let you know how many properties, especially if something's gone back on the market, you'll be able to see all of that. All right, so let's take a look at this. So as you can see, it's dropped those 10 in. Now, this is a horrible driving order, right? This is all over. This is a hot mess, especially with gas prices, what they are. Certainly not going to drive in that order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the smart route. I'm going to click that button, and now it's going to put them using Google Maps in that logical driving order, okay? What I like so much about this, let me go up here. What I like so much about this is right here, I can see if it's a go and show, meaning I'm immediately going to get the lockbox, or if it's going to require a confirmation. Now, I like this because let's say Joe Anderson's going to run out and show, somebody just called and said, hey, I'm on my lunch. Could we run out and look at this property? Well, I can see if I'm going to need more time to get it confirmed, or if maybe I want to start with these two go and shows. As you can see, I just drag and drop it to that second position. You could go in and update it. If you wanted to start at point 10 and end up at point 1, you could even flip the addresses around by just clicking on this little link up here. But basically, we now have more time to get these other additional appointments confirm. If there's an appointment that says that this one's not accepting online appointments, well, I could go ahead, I could remove that. I think that might have been a coming soon. Maybe I forgot to take one of those out. And I can see that from here. I also like that if there is a blackout time or if the agent is not allowing overlapping showings, I can see that right from here. I don't have to go all the way back to the beginning and do a restart because I didn't realize that they weren't having showings until noon on this property. So in this case, I'm going to say that we're going to start showing very buyer. By the way, I know everybody's sick of these things if you're scheduling a lot of appointments, but they make me remind you that if you are showing any property, thanks to the National Association of Realtors settlement and MLS practice changes, you are required to have a buyer representation agreement signed. I know some companies have their own buyer representation agreements. We here at My Real Source have 3. You're probably wondering, well, Colleen, why do you have 3? Well, we have 3 in our library because we have one that is your traditional buyer representation agreement that says, you're working with this buyer and gives all the detail. Then we have another one that's actually just property specific. That says, look, maybe you just met them. Everybody loves Joe and Dawn, and they met this brand new buyer, but it's the first time they've met him at the property, and maybe that particular buyer is just saying, I really like you guys, but I just want to, go out with you a couple times first before signing that full agreement. But if I buy property A, B, or C today that you show me, then I know you're entitled to a commission. And then there's what we call basically a non-exclusive. So we have 3 different buyer representation agreements. Check with your broker on which one you're supposed to use. A lot of the brokerages have their own as well. So make sure you're checking with your broker as to the right one. But I have to tell you that because that's what those silly pop-ups are that we constantly get every time we try to create a showing. So it's not an error message. It really is just a reminder. All right, so from this point, I want to go ahead and I want to start scheduling those appointment times. You can just click either on the appointment, or I just kind of like to click right into the time. And I also like this because it does tell you if there is a central lock lockbox on the screen. If this did have a central lock lockbox, it would notify you here. I would say we're going to start at 9:30. I can see that there is 12 minutes of drive time. And I love this too, especially with electronic lock boxes having a 15-minute window. Many of them have a 15-minute window before and a 15-minute window after your appointment time. So I can see this is going to take 12 minutes to get from property A to property B. So I'm literally going to now schedule this one probably at 10:15 to 10, maybe we'll make this 10:45. And I'm going to go ahead. But you can see how I realize, oh, geez, this one, I'm going to need a little bit longer. So I'm going to need 7. So probably might even have to move this one over a smidge to be able to make that time frame. So maybe I want to go into, let's do 11 o'clock. To 11:15. Now I can go ahead and schedule this one right on the heels. But you see how much easier it is when you can see it all in one screen? It's such a pain to have to go back and start all over when you can't see it in one helpful screen. Again, if you need to remove a property, you can simply remove it from here. I always get these carts set up. And, I send my requests, everything gets sent out at one time. I start immediately getting my go and show confirmation. So everything's great. And then you get the call as you're walking out the door. Great news. We found one more listing, right? So the good news is you can go in and simply click add another listing. You can put the MLS in and you can add another listing to your tour very easily. Or let's say Joe and Dawn are doing some relocation, and they're going to take their great relocation buyer out to lunch in between property 4 and 5 here. You can click add another stop. I can put in the address of the restaurant and add that to the tour. Now you're probably thinking, well, why would you do that? Well, because you now can create turn-by-turn directions. So instead of Joe's buyer calling him every 5 minutes going, hey, Joe, which we see in a second, which one are we going to go to that's number 4? Which one's next? Joe can actually create turn by turn directions, send them right to their phone. So it's not only navigating them, but they know exactly what the tour route is and where they're starting and stopping. So I love that. This, I think, is a way easier way to schedule showing. So hopefully you think so as well. This is a way easier way than going one by one and trying to navigate it, using your phone, where you want to start, where you want to stop. And again, I like the way that it shows you what is a go and show, what's going to be confirmed immediate. So if I need a little more time to get these appointments confirmed, I can move them in that order. So hopefully that is making sense. And again, if you have any questions, let me just check my questions box. Make sure. Let's see. Is there a way to set up a buyer on text instead of email notifications? I have many buyers that don't use email and they prefer text. So yes, so I will tell you that is coming. That will be here by the end of the year. You can text out listings. The automated texting is coming at the end of the year. They've just finished these pieces, and I kind of want to explain a little bit about what's going on with Paragon Connect, the mobile app, and what you're seeing in the collaboration center. So I'm glad you asked that question. You asked that question at the perfect time, just let me say. And so let me kind of explain it because it's a little bit complicated. And actually, it was very frustrating to me as an agent for a long time. And I kind of got mad. And we have roundtables with Paragon Black Knight, with the maker of Paragon. And I said, your mobile app is terrible. And I was very frustrated. I'm like, and this was about a year ago. And I want to explain what's going on and why it took this long to make this really cool the mobile app now is phenomenal. It does some things we've never had, but I want to explain why it took a little bit longer for some of these pieces to be mobile. So until last year in October, pretty much nationwide, Paragon customers had this great product that I swear I miss every day called HomeSnap Pro. We taught HomeSnap Pro as an agent. It was one of my absolute favorite programs. It did stuff that I miss to this day, and I am very disappointed how this whole thing got happened. But basically, here's what happened. CoStar bought HomeSnap, and they literally, with very little notice, they killed the product. I mean, they literally just shut it down. And we who loved it, because you could do things like go in and change the price of your listing on the fly. I could go in and find out if I got an agent's offer and there was no pre-approval or anything attached. I could look up the agent and see, is he brand new? Should I cut him some slack? Or has he been doing this 10 years and he's just a buffoon? You could see all of that right in HomeSnap Pro. It also had some phenomenal advertising things that you could do with your listings. I had a listing out here in Riley Township, and it was in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it was by no freeways, it was by no crossroads, it was on Lambs Road, if anybody knows where that is. It was just in the middle of nowhere. And the house was amazing. I could not get people into this house because nobody knew where it was and could find it. So it had things like you could in HomeSnap go click a button and it would pop up the Waze indicator as you were driving by local freeways, and it would give you driving directions. I had listings that buyers told me came directly from that. As we closed it, I'm like, where did you find the property? And they all were saying just the greatest things about how easy it was. So when CoStar, who is in competition, their own words, with Zillow, they're buying a lot of companies, they're acquiring a lot of things. They do have some very cool things. They're also the people who own the commercial MLS, used to be called LoopNet. Anyway, long story short, they bought it and they killed it in favor of creating their own product in Homes.com, which is good, but it's nowhere near what, in my opinion, what HomeSnap offered. So because all the Paragon customers around the country were so in love with this product like I was, they said, we're not going to create an entirely new mobile app. Everybody likes this. 90% of our customers are using this. And so they started dumping money and putting more integration in HomeSnap, which was cool because you could do things, again, that we couldn't do in other programs. Then fast forward into October, and when it goes away, we get like a 2-month notice that they're killing it. It's going away. Everything is gone. So now Paragon has to shift into, okay, we have a mobile companion piece that we've been working on for the Collab Center, but we don't have a full on just separate mobile app. Well, so what they had to do is they had to take the companion piece and build in all the mobile pieces. And that is why it took a lot longer. So if you haven't taken a look at Paragon Connect, which is now going to have this collaboration center built right into it, it is, you can do things in there now that we could not even do in HomeSnap. So I'm happy to say it's finally where it should be, but I wanted to explain why it took a little bit longer for some of these mobile pieces, because I was very frustrated as an agent. When HomeSnap went away, I'm like, what the heck, people? So now those pieces have been built into a better mobile app, and you have access to the mobile app even if you're with our vendor MLSs. A lot of people don't know where to find it though. You can download it from the App Store, you can download it from the Google Play Store, but if you just want to test it out and start taking a look at it, let me show you how you get there right from Paragon too. Right in Paragon, they've added an easy button that you see right here. This is called Paragon Connect. This is the mobile app. And as I open it, what you're about to see is it looks just like the collaboration center new pieces, right? That's because eventually we'll all be seamlessly connected. It's connected right now. So I can go in, I can see homes near me, which I just showed you. I can type in an address. This is on the agent side. I'm looking at this now. I can see all of my buyer clients right here. I can see my inventory. I can see what I've searched for in the power search. I'm also going to tell you that another little secret. Eventually, you're going to see Paragon proper, where you're searching for listings, is going to, and there's no set date, but they're going to combine these two. So it's all going to be in one. So the reason I'm telling you that is because I know it's been a little bit frustrating with HomeSnap going away so fast and not having all of these other pieces put together. They are morphing them all into one. And so very soon you're going to see the Collaboration Center fully integrated into Connect. They're going to look exactly the same. You're going to be able to do all of the things that you can do, but Paragon proper will also start over the next few months, starting to take on this same look. So it actually is going to be a lot easier. But I like to explain because I was frustrated as an agent, like, why is this taking so long? So that's kind of the backstory. So keep in mind, you can use Paragon Connect right now. Your buyers that you're setting up in the Collaboration Center are going to be right here. You're going to be able to see their sites. You're going to be able to go in. If I want to see Bob Barrett, which we were just looking at, I can see searches that he's done. I can go into his Collaboration Center site right up here. I can see exactly what he's looking at. So you can see it's all coming together in one. So you're probably thinking, well, what is the benefit of that? So imagine, if you will, for a moment, you're in the grocery store, and my friend Ed Brittingham is talking to his neighbor. They're standing at the checkout. Ed says, you know, are you guys still looking for that 3-bedroom home? And Sally says, you know what, Ed, I was going to call you this week. You know, we're going to start looking again. And Ed can literally, while he's standing at the grocery store on his phone, set up a Sally Sue search. Sally Sue can literally get her welcome in 10 seconds from him setting up an easy search, so that they can have this conversation right while they're standing there, and he can go over the 17 matches that just got delivered to her. So it is going to be seamless, and we're almost there. There's a few more little tweaks that are coming, but I think once you see, and I tell you this backstory so that you keep looking at it, some of the enhancements that we've made over just the last month. Did you know now in Paragon Connect, you can go in and literally change any field on your listing from the palm of your hand on your phone? You want to put in different showing instructions, you can do that. You want to go in and edit your photos, which you can't even really do, in my opinion, in Paragon. The editing tools are very limited. You have a vast scope of photo editing tools. You can change the exposure on a listing. You can, do more photo editing than you can even in Paragon proper. So what you're going to see is that the mobile app is going to give you even more benefits on things we couldn't even do in HomeSnap, which I'm finally happy to say we've got more tools that you can actually do here. So, but it took a little bit of time time to get there, and I wanted to explain why. So, okay, that was my long-winded soapbox rendition. But again, standing at the grocery store, I can go in, I can see those 17 new listings that I just set Sally up with. Sally, of course, can go in and she can send these new listings. She can check them off and share them with her. Let's say she's going to send these to her husband. She can go right up to the easy share button right here. She can copy that link. She can send it via text. Again, on your, if I was on my phone, I would just show you sending them via text to that other contact, but you can see how much easier it is. So the texting automation, yes, that is coming as well. You can certainly text or share to a text very easily from here. The automated piece of that is coming too. So stay tuned. By the end of the year, you're going to have that piece. Of course, they can simply favorite from their phone, just like they could in the collaboration center. All right, you can tag things. You can compare properties side by side too. I love that. So you can actually do the compare feature. If let's say a husband and wife are set up on the account. By the way, you can set up multiple. You can set up partners. You can set up spouses. You can set up business investors. They can be on the same site. And they can share information back and forth with each other. They can even create custom folders. But if they wanted to compare listings side by side, well, this one had more acreage. Well, this one, they can do that as well. All right, so some very cool things. I hope you can see some of the enhancements. I'm excited about where it's going. This is only the tip of the iceberg, I promise you. There's a lot of cool things planned for this in the very, very near future. And make sure I'm hitting all my questions here today. Should we be able to download the Collaboration Center app? Great question. App you actually want to download, yes, you can download both. And in the short term, definitely you're going to want to do that. As of yesterday, this is brand new as of yesterday, by the way, you now can download both Paragon Connect and the Collaboration Center from the App Store and the Google Play Store. Both are available. Matter of fact, the app just went live for Collaboration Center yesterday. So that's kind of how new this is. So thank you for bearing with me. I've done beta testing as much as I can so I can show it and show you what's coming. But yes, you can go and download both the Collaboration Center and the Paragon. They're both free apps, so you can just download them. I'm going to tell you the whole goal is down the way. It will all be one. Paragon itself will be one app. You'll download Paragon. It will have the Connect piece in it. It will have the Collaboration Center piece. So again, this is kind of that interim, and I hope giving you the background. I like to understand the background of like, why isn't it just perfect today? I wanted you to understand that it has been a work in process, and it's almost there with all of these key pieces. And Sebastian has a question. Will it work with Apple? Absolutely. It will work on your iPhone. It will work on a Google phone. It will work on an Android phone. So it will work on all three. Very good question. And I'm wondering if you have a father that I know, Sebastian, that last name, he goes to my church. And so I'm kind of wondering if I'm going to have to ask you later. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to keep firing. I'm trying to stay on top of them. If I miss them, just let me know and I'll try to go back to it. Okay, so how do you set up the Collaboration Center? That's usually the next question I get. So, okay, Colleen, you showed us. I'm on board. I like it. It looks good. I like the new UI. How do we set it up now for our clients? And so that's really where we're going to start in Paragon. So I'm just going to close some of these windows. As you can see, I got a few open here. All right. So we're going to go into Paragon and we're now going to presence. Okay, good. Good to know. He's such a nice man. So thank you for letting me know. I'm just a wonderful guy. Okay, so going back into Paragon, where do we do the setup? And we're going to talk about some kind of advanced setups too. When you go under search, a lot of people will say, Colleen, I'd love to use the Collaboration Center, but can't use it because I need more detail. And I hear this so often. And I hear people say, Colleen, whenever I'm trying to explain something, I try to turn my camera on. I talk with my hands. It's a bad habit. But whenever you're going in and you're setting up a search for a client, you want to make sure it's going to be exactly what that client is looking for, right? So if that client says to Sebastian, he says, Sebastian, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom home in Sterling Heights for, here's my price range and I need 1,000 square feet, then that's great, right? That's an easy one. But what if he says to Sebastian, you know what, Sebastian, don't send me anything that doesn't have at least, I have 5 daughters. I need at least 3 full baths, need an attached car garage. I need a finished basement. If there are these extra level of details, a lot of times people are afraid to set up the collaboration center because they're afraid it's going to go to their client and it's not going to be what their client has exactly told them. And I hear this so often. They'll say, well, I have to do the search every day for this client because they're really particular about what they're looking for. Don't feel like you have to do that. That's a lot of work on you. And the other problem is that if you miss a property, and especially when there's no inventory like there is now, that's going to be huge, right? And it's going to be on you, the agent. So set it up in this automated way where you can actually put in those details, where you can actually tweak your search to include even the minute details so they're only getting what they're looking for. Of course, you have that option that I explained with the yellow siding. You can always send them to you too. But don't be afraid to set them up in this automated way because they have very particular needs and then you miss a property. Even if it comes to you as the agent first, that's great. You don't miss anything, right? You get that immediate alert. The last thing you want to do is have to go in every day to the MLS and run that search. So let's take a look at a way that you can add an extra level of detail so that you can include everybody in your collaboration center. All right. And you're going to do that by simply going under search at the top here. You don't want to set them up in a quick search. You're not looking in the power search. We're going into the full on search where we can put in all the detail. So in this case, I'm going to obviously search for what they're looking for. Are they looking for vacant land? Are they looking for a single family home? By the way, if let's say Sebastian has a client and they say, Sebastian, you know what? If you could set me up with a search for any fixer-uppers in this area, but you know what? I also, if you come across any vacant land that we could build on, we'd be willing to look at that too. Well, that might be when Sebastian even wants to include a multi-class search, because what that allows you to do is you don't have to pick. You can actually set up over the classes. So you can actually put in exactly what they're looking for in one search. Now, most of the time I do search by class because it's easier. But remember, you can set up multiple searches in your collaboration center. And I love this. When I say that, I want to caution you, you don't want to set up a client with multiple collaboration centers, right? You don't want him going over here for his vacant land searches and over here for his single family. That wouldn't make sense. Now he's got a site over here and he can't see what he saved, and now he's got to log in over. That would be terrible, right? You want to set up one collaboration center for your client. You can put multiple searches. Maybe he's looking for vacant land up in the UP, but he's also looking for traditional single family home searches over here. So you can actually set up one site for a client, but you can have multiple different searches attached to that. So they still have one place to go, but they're seeing all of that detail in one spot. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. So let's go in, let's set up a single family home search. So I'm going to search by class. I'm going to search under residential. And I'm literally just going in and putting in that detail. By the way, if you are new to Paragon, you don't know what a particular field is calling for, you can always click on that magnifying glass and it's going to show you. This is just asking you, do you want a condo? Do you want a farm, single family home? What are you looking for? I am not going to, you could, if they were just searching in, let's say, all of Sterling Heights, you could pick an area, but I'm going to actually show you how to be even more specific, because a lot of times buyers are looking in several different areas, but they may not want the whole city. They may want just, north of 59, and I don't want to live west of Card Road. And, it could be a little bit more specific. So we're going to look at that today too. Of course, the status that we're looking for, I'm going to pick all active because there's not that much on the market. But if there is an active status, like let's say you're not comfortable showing ABOs, you can always deselect that. I prefer to do all active because they're still going to see ABOs on Zillow and Realtor.com and in the collaboration center. So I kind of like to just pick all actives for them to see. From here, I'm going to jump on down and I'm going to go to maybe they have specific needs, like maybe they are looking for a ranch style home. Maybe they are looking for at least 3 bedrooms. I can leave that max open. Okay, here's one of those technology things I'm going to tell you that the people who make technology have clearly never sold homes in their life. And here's why I say that. Because did you know if you wanted to be even more specific in your searching, did you know that there's a hidden box? Yes, yes, you heard me right. The tech people, they hide stuff from us. It makes me crazy, but let me show you what I mean. If you scroll all the way down to where it says secondary criteria, now makes me a little crazy. This is my love. I'm going to tell you what I love and what I hate. That's why they get nervous when I teach at the MLS, but I'm going to tell you it anyway. If you click that secondary criteria drop down here, do you see how it gives you a whole bunch of stuff that they hide from you? Did you know you can take it out of here and move it up where it actually belongs, like I've done in my real life searches? That's right. If you wanted to, let's say Sebastian again has a client, he's got 5 daughters, and he says, Sebastian, I need at least 3 full baths, not total, like you see up here. See how this says total? That's the total number. I want 3 full baths. I can actually go to a minimum of 3 full baths. You don't have to keep it stuck down in that secondary criteria. You can move it up to your primary. By the way, when you customize, you can even drag and drop them in the order that you want. So remember that there is this little hidden area down here. Don't make it hard on yourself. Move that stuff that you use all the time up in your searches. You just go to customize. Remember, you can add whatever fields you want, and you can pull it out of your secondary criteria and put it in your primary. So very, very easy to do that. All right, so just want to show you that was down there because for the longest time I did not know, which I found kind of frustrating. All right, so back up in our search criteria, we're putting in all of our basics, and yes, we want a basement, but we want a finished basement. Yes, we want a garage, but we want an attached garage. So how do we add that extra level of details? That is done under your features. Features have 3 options. It must have this one specific feature. So I'm going to say, okay, it must have, let's say it must have a finished basement or partially finished. I could add both in order for it to go to this client. Um, if you're like me and you're not sure what that would fall under, typing in the word finish is easy, but there's over 4,000 features. Did you know that? Isn't that crazy? 4,000 features. If you're not sure where a particular feature might be located or what it's called, you can always go over to this magnifying glass to the right, and it will break these features down into categories. So if I'm looking for finished and partially finished basements, I can literally just check those, and it's only going to show me those options. If there's something a client does not want to have, they're absolutely adamant about, I don't want this particular item. Case in point, I recently, and you may have heard me tell this story if you've been on classes with me before, I recently listed a home over here in Lenox Township. Lenox Township happens to be in Macomb County, which is a pass or fail well and septic where you have to have it tested before you can convey it or you have to hold an escrow. Anyway, long story short, this particular home literally was at the bottom of the runoff of the landfill, like the fence backed up to the landfill. Now, this is not desirable generally for most buyers, so that's a problem. However, 2 houses down, actually 2 houses, the next thing was a shooting range. So to the right, I had a shooting range, and literally the runoff of the rain from the landfill was going into the backyard. As if that doesn't sound hard enough to sell, happened to be a husband and wife going through a really awful divorce. The wife had moved in, she'd only lived there a year. It was previously just the husband's home. Long story short, we went to have the septic tested, and the husband said it's a new septic, it's only a year old. Turns out that was not exactly true. It was over 25 years old. And to make matters worse, he had put a swimming pool. Did you not? Can't make it up in real estate. Put a swimming pool on top of the septic field, which had crushed all of the septic field, which left things burbling through the soil that should not have been. So we found out in this less than desirable property for most buyers, that they were going to have to add a raised engineered septic field in the amount of $17,000 right before closing. So you can imagine how this was not good. So the very first thing she said to me when we went to purchase a home was, Colleen, don't ever show me something with a septic field. I don't want to ever hear the word septic come out of your mouth. I don't want to maintain the septic field, understandably so. So for her search, it was imperative to her that any home that was shown did not have a septic field. And so that's where you would put must not have. So if we're adding that extra level of detail, anything on a septic field would automatically not go to her. She's been very specific, right? You have those cases where maybe you have a client who says, I have a home business. I either need a pole barn or an oversized shed on the property. I need at least one of these items in order to go to him. A good example would be maybe you have a client with a boat and the client says, I don't care if I'm on Clinton River or if I'm right on the lake, or even if my home just has a steel seawall on the canal, I need to be able to get to Lake St. Clair because I have a boat. You could actually do must have at least one of these items, and that would ensure it only went to them if it met that criteria. So let's take a quick look. If we're using those features to add that extra level of detail, we could go to basement type, as I mentioned. We could do must have a finished basement. If we're doing something like must not have, maybe they don't want a pool. We could find pool in here. And that would be in out. I want to show you a couple other ones real quick though. Water features. This would be a good one regarding that boat. Maybe again, they don't care if they're on the canal or they would love to be on Hurston's Island or have lake frontage. That would be awesome. Maybe they just even river or being on a steel seawall where they could actually take their boat down to the lake. So you can actually customize it. Even if you're setting up the collab center for someone who maybe is in, a little bit more demanding, you can add those extra level of detail to make sure that they get that home. Okay. So that way they're not calling you saying, hey, I told you, Ed, I only wanted to see things with a finished basement. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, lady with the fuzzy hair, you have 4,000 listings. Well, actually, we didn't put in, obviously, the most important, location, location, location. So I'm going to go into search by map because I want to show you some easy ways and some good examples of taking it a step further to make sure you're looking exactly where that client is looking. So let's say in this particular case, your client works at the tech center and they want to live within 5 miles of the tech center. And this isn't the tech center, but I'm just going to use it because it's close. You can actually type in their work address or mom and dad's address, and you could say, okay, they want to live within 5 miles or 1 mile or however long they want to live. And I can actually do a radius circle to make sure I'm only setting up their search for exactly where they wanted to live. Now, let's say that Joe Anderson, he's talking to them, and they said, you know what, I really like this, but you know what, I don't want to live too close to the Clinton River. You can even go as far as setting up a search and drawing an area. You're probably thinking, okay, what is that? What is she doing? If let's say they didn't want to live by the Clinton River in this area, or maybe it's by a train track, or maybe just their mother-in-law lives over there and they're like, you know what, that's a little too close to comfort for us. You can actually draw a shape on a shape, and you can change that from includes to excludes, and you can remove that area. So if they love all of Rochester, but they don't want this one little pocket area of Rochester, you could actually do all of Rochester and just remove that one little area. And I have to thank Flo Abke for this one. This was a really good example I had never thought of. I love her. I just adore her. She's just that person. I did my very first real estate deal with Flo Abke, which it was kind of a funny story. Someday if I ever meet you outside of here, I'll tell you the story. But I learned a lot very quickly. That much I can tell you. But she brought up a super great example the other day. And I thought, I'm going to show this in the class because I would have not thought of this. So she was searching, she was working with a buyer, And this particular buyer had, he worked as a volunteer firefighter. She drew her search over this area that he wanted to live in, but she said, Colleen, here's what I don't like about this. He has to live within this particular municipality. He only wants to live in this area. How do I know if I'm crossing, if I'm doing a big search area, how do I know if that search is crossing the line into another county where he couldn't keep his position? And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a really good example. So if you are drawing a search, so I'm just going to use my Paragon because that's kind of my favorite. Let's say Flo's client didn't want to cross Van Dyke Highway or 53. They didn't want to go east of Fairchild Road. As you can see, you can be very specific here. They didn't want to go, let's say, north of 23. So I can draw my area. But how do I know if that encompasses more than one municipality? How do I know where that city line actually starts and stops? As you can see, I think I've actually gone a little into Chesterfield. So if I want to see that, I can go into the basically these little papers that are stacked on top of each other. And I can say, you know what? I want to add in the municipality lines here. I now can even label them so I can see exactly. Now you're probably thinking, well, you still can't see that. Well, if I want to add in that detail that Flo was saying, because he can't live in this other Shelby, he has to live in Macomb, let's say. If I want to take it a step further, what I had her do is change it to an aerial view. By the way, you can get in very, very close to see what those municipality lines would be. And I now can see exactly the street that it's going to start and stop right into Shelby here. And if I wanted to see, even if a parcel, let's say it's even, let's take it a step further. If I want to break it down to even see if a particular parcel would be located on that road, I can go back, even add the parcel lines, and I can see the lines and exactly where that start and stop is. So I just thought that was a really good example. If you have a scenario like that and you want to be really, really specific, you're not looking in the whole city. You're just looking in a very, maybe a particular couple of subdivisions, but you want to make sure you're staying within that perimeter. You can actually zoom in and very clearly see where the starting and stop lines are for those municipalities. So I just thought it was kind of a good example. And I thought, oh, I'm going to show that. That's kind of a unique example, but you may be able to use that later on. All right. And so we've got our basic criteria in. If you didn't want to search by map, if you wanted to do an entire city, I could jump back to criteria and I could say, okay, I don't want to search by map. I maybe just want to search, let's see, where did I move my municipality? Here it is. I'm always moving stuff in these classes around and I forget to move it back. If I'm looking just, let's say, in Sterling Heights for this particular home, I could say I want to search by municipality. Maybe I'm just searching for, again, actives in Sterling Heights, one story. I can actually go in and put an even bigger area. Actually, I'm going to do that right up here, municipality. Sorry, I'm going to search by the area one. Oops. That's what happens when you keep moving your search fields around in different classes. All right. So, and again, you're going to put in things, obviously, like if they're looking for a particular school district. In this case, maybe I'm going to put in their price range. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that this is the search that I want. I'm going to say 300 to 500,000. I'm going to obviously put in my detail, like how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. So we're going to say they need a minimum of 2. Again, if I wanted to have an attached garage, I'm going to add in that level of detail. And now I've got some criteria coming up. I now want to do the hardest part of Collapse Center. So by the way, really what we just did is we did a search, which is the hardest part of Collapse Center, setting up what is your criteria. The other part of Collapse Center is literally just marrying the search to the contact it's going to. And that's why it's so easy. There's not even a button under resources because it's literally, here's your search, here's your person it's going to. So let's actually do that. So now we've got our search set up. We're going to do a save search as. This is where we're going to simply name our search in case we want to edit it at any time. So we're going to call this Joe and Dawn search. The hardest part, let's marry that contact record. So if you already have that contact in Paragon, you could go ahead and find them, but I'm going to add in a brand new contact. So we're going to call this Joe's buyer. And we're going to put in Joe's buyer's email. Buyer@mailreader.com. By the way, this is usually where I get the call where people say, Colleen, I did what you told me, I got an error message. And here is why. A lot of times you will set yourself up, like maybe you want to test this on yourself. Remember how I said you only want to have one buyer associated with one site. If you try to put the buyer in again with the same email address, let's say you set up yourself, you want to test it, and then you go to set yourself up again, you are going to get an error message because it's reminding you to keep that buyer in one site. You don't want them having sites all over the place. You want them to have one site. You could have multiple searches in that site, as I'm going to show you, but you want them to have one site. So if you get an error message that says this email already exists, that's why. I always get a lot of calls after class, like, I tried what you said, and it said, well, you've set yourself up either twice or you've set that client up twice. That's what it's telling you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to save Joe. And the next thing we want to do is we just want to turn it on and notify him that it's live. So we're going to click Save and Notify, which is how we're going to send that email welcome. All you have to do is hit Send Welcome, and it's going to immediately notify them that the Collaboration Center is turned on. It gives them kind of an overlay. It kind of gives them a quick tour of, hey, you can favorite properties. I usually create a custom message, which you can do. By the way, you can create this custom message in your preferences. I'm going to show you that in just a second when you're setting up your site. Whatever is in your preferences is what's automatically going to be sent. If you wanted to put in something different here, maybe it's a specific client you want to reference, hey, Sally Sue, great seeing you at the grocery store. You could actually do that right here. But all you have to do is hit send, and their Collaboration Center is set up and they're ready for it to be used. If you are setting, let's say that Ed Brittingham is working with an investor over a big area. And he calls Ed and he says, you know what, Ed, I'm getting these notifications all the time. Maybe he's looking at 4 or 5 different counties. And he says, is there a way I could just like get the notifications on Monday morning at 9 a.m. of everything, or every other day or something like that? You can always go into the Collaboration Center right here. And you can even say, you know what, maybe I want them to get it every Monday. We'll say maybe we want to get it weekly, every Monday at 9 a.m. So you can even customize. If they're getting too many notifications, you can customize how often they're getting. Now, in this tight market, most of us aren't having that problem. But if Joe and Dawn want to get a recurring appointment, or a recurring report, actually, of everything that went to that client on their desk Monday morning at 9 a.m., they could even set it so the agent notification, meaning it can tell you if you wanted to, you can have it CC you, and you could get that every Monday at 9 a.m. if you prefer that. For me, I don't want everything that gets sent. I don't BCC myself. I just want what they favorite, and I want what they ask a question on. I want those to automatically come to me. I'm going to show you how to set that up. So for me, I don't want all the notifications. But if you do, that's totally fine. Again, you can go in, you can add a secondary, a spouse, a partner, and I'll show you how to do that too. All right, so their site is set up. Congratulations. And I know you're probably thinking, this kind of seems like a lot of steps. Actually, it's not. It's going in, setting up a search, and turning it on. I just showed you all the bells and whistles in between. But remember, we're recording this class, so if you missed anything along the way, you can go back and you can fast forward right to that particular part. If they didn't receive their welcome, let's say it went to their junk, you want to resend it, you can do that again, right in their contact. Just hit resend invitation, it goes out again. If you wanted to add an additional search, maybe you wanted to add that vacant land search, I can go in, I can click add a new search to that particular contact. If you wanted to set up that secondary or that spouse, I can do that here as well. You can put in their contact information and hit add spouse to the notifications so they get all those notifications. Um, Paragon is moving into more of the contact. I'm gonna tell you two things I'm not supposed to tell you, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. That's why they love it when I work at MLS, right? There's something new coming. Remember how I said I loved the advertising in HomeSnap? That's something new coming down the pike. It's not all inked yet, but it's coming. And Paragon is also moving in a little bit more of the contact management direction. So as you can see, my son actually goes to a little Catholic school here in Richmond. So I've set up a group that I can keep track of any moms or dads that, if I'm selling their house or if they're a new buyer, I like to keep track of, hey, that person came from Jake's school. So at the end of the year, I can send out a little thank you card or a little Christmas card with a little blurb about the school. And so if you want to organize your leads or your contacts, you can even set up custom groups now in Paragon. And I love that because it helps me kind of keep track of where leads come from. And, if we can kind of see, is my return on investment good? Am I, if I'm doing water bottles and fundraisers at my son's school, does that have a return investment? I can keep track of that. So don't be afraid to set up custom groups of where your clients are coming from. Then you can put in additional information like their current address, things like that. If you sell let's say this buyer buys from you, you sell them a house and now you want them not to get the notifications anymore. You don't want to delete the contact, right? This is your contact, your CRM, your contact management database. So don't delete them. You're just going to inactivate the notifications. So now they're not getting all of those notifications any longer. They can do their own searches unless you disable that. And remember that yellow-sided home that we talked about? You also can do an agent preview. This is where you can turn that agent preview on. And let me kind of show, while we're talking about that, let me show you how that looks. In the agent preview, see how it says approve all? They have 55 homes in this Chris Buyer account. Okay, so 55 homes got sent to them, but they send it to me to approve first as the agent. So if I click on that 55, I can go in and I can check the ones I want to approve, or I can check the ones I want to disapprove, which don't go to the client. If you want to approve them all, I think you can see that's pretty easy. If I go back to that contact and click approve all, it's going to send everything out to that client. So that's that agent preview. If they don't want yellow siding, I want it to come to me first. This is how I can go ahead and allow that to happen. Okay. Going back into that site, just a couple more things, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Let's see, go back into Joe Buyer here. Again, I can go in, I can do an agent recommended. It didn't come up in their automated search, right? It wasn't in St. Clair Shores. It's 2 streets out of St. Clair Shores that I found the perfect home for them, and I knew it. So all I have to do is go into agent recommended, click add a listing, put that MLS number in. When they now go into their site, front and center, it's going to show up that is your recommended property. Okay. Down below, they've also added one more new thing, and that is when it comes to seller activity. If Joe and Dawn also have the property listed, they can set up seller activity, which is where you can associate that listing. So as long as you have that property listed, you can select that listing from your inventory and it will show that seller if any new listings popped. It's kind of like Listing Book, if you remember Listing Book. It will show them if any new properties have popped up on the market, that's their competition. It will show them if maybe someone in their sub has lowered their price. It's going to show them that. So it's a way of also working that sell side within the collaboration center. Okay. So I know I covered a lot right now, but we set up an entire collaboration center site. They go in, they get those new notifications automatically. If they call you, and this does happen, right? Crazy buyers these days, they call you and they say, Joe, About 2 weeks ago, you sent me a house with black shutters, and we didn't think we were going to look at that house. We drove by it. We love it. Could you resend that house? You're like, okay, right. So you can actually go back into their collaboration center site. Right at the bottom, you're going to see history, message history. This will show you every single home that got sent to them. So if they said they saw it last week, I can actually change the date range right to last week, and I will see every home that got sent to them, and I can resend it out. So it does keep a history, keeps all of that communication right there. All right, by now you're probably thinking, wow, that was a lot. And yes, that's why we record it, because I kind of went over a lot of the new stuff, some of the history, and of course the setup. Remember, this is what their new dashboard looks like, but I'm going to show you where you can find this class to rewatch it. I'm also going to show you where you can sign up for additional classes. But remember, the best way to start playing with Collab Center is set yourself up. Go in, set yourself up as a buyer so you can actually see what's going to be delivered to them and you have firsthand knowledge of it. But hopefully I've given you a pretty comprehensive tour so you can kind of see what they're going to be looking at. Again, they can do their own property searches. They can even get the property search you set up for them. But the cool thing is, let's say they increase their price, it's going to, of course, notify you as the agent. Okay, so here we go. If you are feeling like, wow, that was a lot, because it was, kind of went over a lot of different things, you can find this recording, and it'll probably take me a day or two to get it uploaded, but you can find it under resources, under recorded webinars. Okay, under recorded webinars, if you go to videos, you're going to be able to see all of those videos. So as we wrap up, I just want you to know that you can go back in and you can see any of our previously recorded classes. They're all going to be, again, right under your resources, recorded webinars. That will take you into basically our YouTube channel where you can find this class and all of the other classes that you can watch anytime. If you're interested in seeing additional classes that we have coming up, you can go to that same place under resources, the education corner, where you can find an interactive catalog of our courses. You can simply click to whatever class you're looking for. Like my good friend Lisa Harris has a property records and tax information class coming up on the 13th. You can simply click on the register button and be signed up. We've got some new photography classes that are coming out. I love that. Taylor does an awesome job with that class, as well as Cuba Casa has just released something exciting in the way of floor plans that are even easier to use with now motion sensor dots. So when your floor plan comes up, it actually shows photos, and they're kind of like the Matterport tours. So a lot of cool things that they just released. So if you haven't checked out that class, we've got another Cuba Casa coming on December 12th. So be sure and check that out. All right, this is your last chance to ask any questions that you may have. Put them in the questions box. I do want to thank you for spending your time with me, taking a look at the Collaboration Center. Hopefully you've enjoyed the new tour and can see some of the benefits of setting up clients. All right, doesn't look like we have any other questions. I'm going to go ahead and end here. Thanks again for your time, and happy selling, everybody. Have a great day.